So welcome to today's stream. After finishing off the warehouse yesterday, we are going to integrate two different new systems which will interact with the warehouse. So let me just show you a warehouse working. We have placed a couple here and a couple up top of it. Now these are going to have to be obviously built by the player, but just to give you an idea of what's going on, we are actually going to have to start from the main map, the main menu map. Okay, so let's just load that up. Now that that's loaded up, now one of the things we're talking about here is this rocket. This is our resupply rocket, and basically we are going to sell our products that we put in the warehouse to the rocket for various other products plus any workers. And here we have a mine, which is good. So we can basically build our conveyor. And in fact join it. And if we now look at our warehouses, now, I'm not 100% sure what that number is, but the way we can find out is it's this one here. You'll notice that it's getting copper rich ore and our warehouse quantity is going up. So from that point of view, we can now work on our rocket, etc. Now, I'll just stop it there. Now, in preparation for this, we have begun a trading screen. So that is probably the first thing that we're going to work on. We can basically bring it up by hitting 5. And as you can see, we haven't got it quite sorted out yet, but we will. And that's bringing up a view of all the things that we have. Now we're going to basically have two lists, one for our supply and one for their supply, and then costs, etc. So we can take a look at that, and we have set it up under UI, in-game and trading. So we have, there's only two used here, which is trading main and trading line. A line is one of the lines for a particular commodity. So if we open this up and we go to GP lines, we can set this up to have 3, 1, 2. And then this should basically give us a better view of our trading line, which at the moment it doesn't, but that is probably because of this top line. So what we're going to do is we are going to So we have our text block there, text block lines there. So we're going to open up our main trading. And we have a text block that's fine. And we can set that up the same way. Three, 1, 2. And that should be us. And that is on column fill, which is correct. Now the interesting thing here is I'm going to do something a bit weird. I'm going to actually say single line. Okay. And we're going to run this again and check what exactly this is doing. And as you can see, it's actually bringing up nothing. So, in actual fact, if we look at the graph here, we're adding the child to GP lines, which is correct. But the thing is, so that's fine. So to the actual line itself, this is kind of weird. So let's have a look at this again. Okay, so that's fine. That is in fact fine. Okay, so let's work on the header, right? So it is on the main, and basically we need to change this up a bit. to the right font. And what we're going to do is we're going to surround these with borders, just like in this one. So this should be in fact column 2, but the problem is that these should be in the right columns as well. So it in fact looks like we've got a grid here. And I don't think this should be in a grid. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop this into the horizontal box. We're going to drop this into the horizontal box. Sorry, we can drop that one into the horizontal box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to delete this grid. Okay. And we're going to have to set these manually. Okay. So let's think about this one for a second. So what we shall actually do here is we're going to pass in GP lines. So in the trading line, we're going to set up a variable and it's going to be grid panel, okay, and it's going to be of type grid panel, okay, and it's going to be instance editable and expose on spawn so that we can pass the value in. So basically, if we refresh our line widget, refresh nodes, we have our grid panel and we can pass our panel in. And from here we can actually set up the columns. although this still scares me a bit. But we may be able to do something with that after the add child to grid, so that we can actually add the child to the grid properly. So let's just try this anyway. And we have the text product. So what we want to do is grid panel, and we can set the row fill. We don't actually want to set the row fill. We actually want to set if we get the column fill, and let's say a for each. Let's see what this actual element is. It's a float. Okay, so this is a list of the fills. So I'm kind of guessing that we can't do it this way. Okay. So we are going to remove this. And we're going to go back to our designer. And this one, we're going to wrap it with our grid. And we're going to drop that one in. Now, in theory, we actually don't need this horizontal box. So all we need to do is duplicate that. We didn't want to actually do that, but anyway, we wanted to actually copy it, then delete that, and then paste that. Okay, so we have our fill rules on this. Let's say 3. We'll do the same one again. We'll say 3, 1, 2. Okay. And we are actually missing. So this is in column 0, which is correct. And that should be in column 2. And we should have a spacer. In here, and that is going to be wrapped with border, and this border here is going to be at column 1, and its appearance will be black. Okay, that. So if we save that, something it doesn't like here, oh, it doesn't like that. I think this is because of this, so we can delete that. Now we don't seem to have a quantity at the moment, which is fine. Well, that's a bit weird. Basically deleted those, don't know why, but there you go. Okay, whatever. So, there we go. And the interesting thing here is that shouldn't be doing that. That's the interesting thing here. If we look at GP lines, it's 312. But the problem is, of course, that we also have the same issue vertical. We might need to change this to a vertical box or something, right? So let's try that. Okay, let's try that. So we'll wrap this with a vertical box, then we're going to drop this in here and drop this in here, and now our grid is actually there. And we can delete GP lines. So we have our vertical boxes, okay? And that is not going to be there. We're going to need to do a horizontal box in there. So in our graph, we are not going to add a child to the grid. We are going to not do that either. You see, we have our VB line thing. So let's call this VB individual. We'll just try this in a few different places and see how it goes. We'll go back to there. We're going to break that. We're going to break that. We're going to pull this down. Then we're going to get a VB individual. Then we're going to add child to vertical box. That goes in there. That goes in there, and we don't need to add this on. Then we can run this and see what happens. And there we go. We have the beginnings of now. It looks to me at this point that we actually do need this in a grid. And it is in a grid. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. If we look at our designer, our VB individual, no padding, should fill it. And yeah. So let's just, for the purposes of mucking around here, let's go back to our trading line. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a couple of images. We're going to drag them into our grid. And we're going to duplicate it. We probably aren't going to wrap these borders, but what we do want is a couple of icons. We don't want them, we want generic probably. Let's see what we've got. So that would be the first one, and that would be the second one. Then, so we have 3, so this is going to be column 3. This would be column 4. Okay. Now we need to go back to here, add our 2 this is going to be, let's say, 1 and 1. actually more like 0.5 and 0.5. Let's say 0.4, more like 0.3, 0.3. Actually, you know what? For the beginning of this, let's just set them all the same. And these are actually going to have to be wrapped in borders. And if you click on the border, is going to be black. Okay, that. We'll do the same again. In fact, we won't. What we're going to do is we're going to delete that, and we're going to duplicate this, and then this image, we shall change it back to this. Okay. And this is going to be column 4. So how is this looking now? And that's beginning to look pretty decent. We have got an issue with the centering, but we can work with that. This text here, and there we go, got a nice header there. Now we're going to stop this for now, okay? And what we're going to do is go back to this trading main. Okay. So what we actually need to do here is, if we go to the graph, I'm going to actually put this on event construct. I don't want to pre-construct it at the moment. I want to see what is what, basically. So that's cool. But CP trading, so resupply, this is going to have to be wrapped in a scroll box, and that scroll box here well, let's see what it does. So basically this is going to have to be wrapped in a canvas panel. And in actual fact, shall undo that. This is going to have to be wrapped in a canvas panel. And then this scroll box so let's see how that affects us. And apparently it didn't affect us very well. Now, is there? Apparently not. We really want to see what size this is. So if we save that and play it, let's see what we've got here. Now that's fine, but we need this basically wrapped in a scroll box, okay, so that we can actually see we can scroll up and down these. In the meantime, let's do a little bit of work, shall we? Let's get a little bit of work done on this. So what we'll do in this case is we're going to event construct, okay, and then we're going to have a custom event. And it's going to be called return product. Okay, so basically this is going to get all actors of class, and it's going to be warehouses. And then it's going to be get component. We're going to need to how do we get the components from this actor? Interesting. Let's we need comp. Silly me. So that's a for each. One step of my one step ahead of myself there. Then comp, get comp input. Then get supply. Then we're going to do another for each. Right, so basically we're going to have to do a little bit more here. What we're going to have to do is for each product we're going to have to set an array here. Going to have to set an array, keep track of which line is which, basically. Okay, so we're going to have to go back to trading main. Going to have to go back to the graph here. Right, and as you can see, we're passing in an item, but we're getting the product name. What we should actually do is pass the actual item in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to change that. Oh, I could leave that there at the moment, in fact, just for clarity. So we can say e item. Okay, and e item is going to be able to type e product. Okay, and that's going to be instance editable wheel bond spawn, and in trading main we're going to refresh the nodes here. And that is not the right type. This is coming off of DT items. So this is coming off struct name. Struct names. Okay, so we need to look at the recipes. And I actually think that this is e items. So we can do that and save that, and then go back to here. We need to refresh that, and that goes in there. So we can save that, go back to our line. Now, the problem here is we need to know which So we have this. Right, okay. So we have our E item, right? So we can now check this against this. So we can say get element. Now, I know that we're not adding them all together at the moment, but we will add them together. Trust me on that. We just want some sort of idea. And this is going to be branch. We're going to loop it there. And we are going to add a variable, and it's going to be called item. Did I keep hitting the wrong thing here? Item quantity. And that is going to be of the type integer. And at the start, we are going to set it to 0. Right, so that's going to keep track for each of the different warehouses. And if the quantity, or sorry, the item name is the same as our widget, our e-item widget, right, then basically we're going to say item quantity plus this item quantity, and then we're going to set this to this value here. If that's true. So we can move these both back into some sort of better. There we go. So all good. Give me 1 second. Right. So when we event construct, we're going to do this. So that's return product. Okay. And this is going to get cut here and here. And we are going to basically say on completion of that, the item quantity is going to go in here. Okay. So if all that's done correctly, we should still return 0 at this point, which is fine. We can return 0, and then we can actually do something. So if we hit 5, we have it saying in storage for some reason, and that's because we didn't link this up. we're going to do something in a second so that we actually keep it live. So we hit 5 and we've got our zeros. Okay, so that's fine. That's exactly what we're expecting. Now, what we can now do is we can say set timer by function, okay, and it's going to be return product. So we say return product, and let's make it do it every 2 seconds. So we're going to run it automatically to start with, and then we're going to run it every 2 seconds, okay? So what we'll do is we're going to link up one of our warehouses. If one of them has a none of those warehouses really have any products, minerals next to them, so we're going to restart that. Hopefully they might have some minerals next. Yeah, there's one there. That's perfect. So what we can actually do is plug this straight in. It's not quite ready to use yet, but there we go. So we can click on this, click on the conveyor, drag that across, put that in. Then if we hit 5, we should have 0. And there we go. Beautiful. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Now this is going to play out in conjunction with our spaceship, which we are going to have a look at shortly. We have another miner just ready to be connected up to a warehouse. And if we press 5, now what is this? Yep, it's double the capacity now. And it's going along nicely. Now, do we have, what I want is another miner and we have one right here, so let's put this one in. There we go. have to wait for this to actually join in. I'm not sure what this is. We can check. Let's have a look to see what this actually is. It's bauxite again. I really wanted a copper to give us just the example of the copper working as well. So this should be jumping up 6 per time, basically. It's jumping up 4 at the moment, which is, we're producing 2 per second. We're now producing 6 per second, or 6 every 2 seconds, because this is updating every 2 seconds. So that's working perfectly, but I really wanted the copper rich ore. Now let's see what this one is. That's bauxite as well. Let's see if there's any others around that we can use. There is one here, and there it's a copper, right? So what we can do is we can do this. And put that there. We're going to do a bit of tidying up. A lot of this stuff is going to be tidied up, I would imagine. Or not, I would imagine. It's going to be tidied up. So basically, we want the copper rich ore to start going up now as well. And there we go. So basically our code there is working perfectly. We refresh it every 2 seconds. We can do that as many seconds as we want. But yeah, we've got three warehouses? We've got 1 warehouse, 2 warehouses, and I think we have a 3rd. We do, so it's reading all the warehouses. Okay. So at that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a cigarette and a sandwich, and I shall be back shortly, and I'm going to show you what the idea for the spaceship is, or the resupply ship. We did a bit of work on this morning, and it's working as I wanted, but there's a little more I want to do that's going to make it even better. So we shall come back and we shall have a go at that. So back in 5. Okay, so we're back. Excuse me, I'm having a bit of a sandwich, so there's that. Okay, so I was going to show you the rocket, okay? Now, the rocket's down here. But the plan is that when the rocket is either taking off or coming into land, it's basically going to set a flag, which then does this. Okay? So it shows you the rocket in flight. And you'll see it's coming back down. And in a few seconds more, it'll take off again. So basically when the rocket actually lands, it's going to set a flag that you can trade, okay? So basically you'll see the rocket coming into land when it comes into land, when it's close, and you'll see it taking off for a certain amount of time when it's taken off, okay? Right, can you clarify your name? Is that supposed to be Mark Hardy, or is that actually Mac Hardy? Or is that some sort of username that you use? Right, so anyway, yeah, the good thing about this is it never crashes, so it is better than SpaceX. Plus, it didn't cost God knows how many billions. This only costed me about half an hour this morning, which I'm guessing is worth a heck of a lot less than the billions SpaceX has sent. Okay, so Mac okay? Right, so the plan here is to link the screen we just did. Now, I don't know if you've been watching this, Mac, but this is our trading screen. But this is going to be only available when the rocket lands. Okay? So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our controller and we're going to create a variable, and we're going to say we're going to call it trading available. Okay, and this is going to store it in our controller, so our controller always knows if we can trade or not. So we need to do a bit of changes to our rocket. So here is our rocket. Now the other thing I want to do is, if you notice, there's a Niagara particle system here for dust, and I want the dust to activate when it's launching, and I want the dust to activate when it's X amount of. So let's say you go from 0 to 10,000. I want the dust to activate while it's less than 1,000. Whether it's landing or whether it's taking off, okay? That's the plan. When it's landed, I want it to set the controller to trading available, and when it takes off, I want it to set the controller to not be available. Okay? And if it takes off I'm going to kill the whatchamacallit. I'm going to kill the trading screen. Yeah. Right, so what we do is we look at the rocket, we go into the event graph. Now, I don't know if you understand what's going on here, Mac, but basically I do a flip-flop and I either play a timeline from the start to the end or from the end to the start, which is basically top one is launching, second one is landing. So we're setting this on the Z, but we actually need to change this because I'm not happy with it. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go into our timeline and we're going to change the length to 1. And we're going to drag back our value, and that's going to be 0.4. And then this one is going to be a value of 1. And that's going to be after a second. And we are going to have to change, well, in the, okay, so this has got a value of 1 and 1. And after the, we're basically going to drag this down, and that should also be 0.4. So what we actually want is for this to be there. We're going to need to do that again. Okay. Now I don't know why that's shown a value of that. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We shall delete that, and that goes to 1, which is what we want. Okay, from 1 to 1. That value is going to be 1, and that's going to be a time of 1. And there we go. Okay, so here is approximately where we're going to add our curve, and we're going to drag this down, then we're going to right click and make it auto. So basically what this is doing is it's slowly building up speed. So it starts slowly, and then it takes off fast. Okay, so now what we need to do is go back to our event graph, and we need to take this Z value and we need to multiply it. And we can make this any number we want. Previously it was 5,000, but what I think we'll do is we'll make it 10,000. And then this number here will go into here. Okay? So, our next thing that we can do is, in our timeline, we can add an event track. Okay? And so we can add an event somewhere. so we can set it here. Actually, you know what? We need a variable. Right? I'm going to rename this to, let's say, we'll call it switch camera or switch view. Beta. My dog's eating my sandwich. Anyway, so we're going to set this value here, right? And we're not going to do any of that. All we want to do is hit this track at this point, and then we're going to check if we're launching or we're landing, and then what we're going to do is we are going to switch it on or off the view. Okay, so let's go back. So we'll save that, we'll go back to our event graph. We're getting our switch view. Right, now in here we're going to say is launching. Okay, and we're going to save that. Then we're going to drag this in. I'm going to say set launching. Then we're going to set that to true. Now we may actually need another event here. We're going to reverse from end. Alright, I had to switch the mic off there a bit to get the dog was barking and things were going to shit, so there you go. Anyway, so in here we're going to say is launching, and we're not going to set that. So what we'll do is we'll just drag this in. We're going to get that, right, and then we're going to branch on it. Okay, so we probably don't need the flip-flop here. We can just basically go straight to here. So we can see it is launching, and if it hits that point, then basically we get widgets. Get all widgets of class, and if our don't know what this widget's called, to be honest. Is it called Widget Rocket? Rocket Viewer. There you go. So if our rocket is found, we have the launcher on our screen, we can say the for each loop, and then we just basically remove it, destroy it, and we destroy the widget by going with remove from parent, and that will destroy our widget. Now, if we are not launching, which means that we're coming back in, we actually want to create the widget. Okay, so we create widget and it's going to be rocket viewer, and then basically we add it to viewport. And there we have it. So let's try this, shall we? Now, in the first instance, the first time it launches, we aren't going to see anything. Right, but when it comes into land, well, that was a bit quick. 10,000 might be a bit much, unless we're doing it. We went to 50,000, didn't we? Right, hang on a second, that's just not going to be very good. Oh, I actually did do it to 10,000. Right, so let's have a look at our... Yeah, that's okay. We can save that and play again. And we didn't want to maximize that, we wanted to press play. We can go down to our rocket. So this is going to take a little bit longer to take off because it's ramping up the speed slower. But as I said, the first time it's still pretty fast, to be fair. It is very fast. Okay, so that didn't do anything. So let's have a look at this. Now, did this actually go in here? That's the question. So we can add breakpoint. Let's see if this actually goes into the code. Come on, take off. It's not doing that thing. It's not doing that. Have I set that up wrong? Isn't the event track? Okay. Have I done this wrong? So that should be value 0. Or should it? The question is, have I done this wrong? Now there's every chance I have. Let's have a look to see if this works this time. Apparently that's not doing anything. Right. Okay, whatever. Right, so this is going to, let's call it at height. Right, and here's the event track here. Let's set the value 1. Right, we'll go back to our, go back to here. We've got a height as well. We'll plug that one in as well, and we'll see what happens. Right, let's see. I really don't want to Google this, but it's not firing those event tracks. Right, give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so the event track is not firing. Unreal Engine 4. Let's see what they say to this. Right, so we might actually need to, so this is timeline. Right, so it says create a blueprint, add timeline node, inside timeline node, create event back, set at 0.5 and value 1. Check autoplay, last frame and loop. Right, Right, so I've basically set it up properly. Right, we're not looping. And it says check autoplay. Well, we aren't autoplaying, mate. I'm afraid. Well, we'll click it and see what happens. I'm guessing, yeah, that rocket took off straight away. And it did actually show it. So let's see if it fires on the way down. Now, this looks to me like we don't want to autoplay it. Right? But we might need a restart for this to work. And strangely as well, it didn't go into that code. Right? Strangely, it did not go into that code. Okay, well, there's a couple of ways we can do this. As I said, we can investigate the problem further. I mean, I'm looking at a post from like 7 years ago. Or the alternative is to work on this later and have a look to see. Let's change this back to 5,000. You see how this was never getting fired? So first time in, it's set to is launching, right? And then once it reaches a certain height, it should switch off. Okay, that's basically the theory behind it. Now, the problem is that that theory isn't working. If any of you guys have any ideas, feel free to jump in and let me know why this wouldn't be working. Now, if I go to the timeline, I'm guessing that this should actually be set to 1. Like if it's set to 1, it should fire, and if it's set to 0, then it basically doesn't fire. So in that case, you can basically go on, off, on, off. That would kind of make sense. We could in fact try that and see what happens. But it's an interesting problem. And it's not firing that event. Okay, let's try something else. Let's just try something else here. And call that at time 0, we'll set it to 0. Right? And at that time there we set it to 1. And let's see if that's the issue. Do you actually need a 0 value in there first? I'm not 100% sure, but we'll soon find out. Apparently not. Okay, we're going to try one more thing. We're going to stop that. And we're going to save all. Sometimes we'll say yes to that. Right, whatever. We're going to reopen our project. Okay. And we're going to see how this goes. Shouldn't take as long to open it up. And there we go. And first time takes a second or two. We're going to have to add async loading in here just to... Right, let's see what happens here. Is it going to work? Or is it still going to be a pain? Well, remember, first time it does it, it should basically do nothing. But when we come back down, it should do something. But it didn't. Awesome. Well, that's a bit of a bummer. Oh well. Right, so we'll leave that for now, and what we'll do is we shall finish off by looking at our controller and rocket again. Okay. So in our blueprints we can open our controller, and in our vehicles we should have the rocket, because I moved it there earlier. And so here we have our rocket. Right, now, so I'm an idiot for that. So I'm going to test it one more time now. I'm not expecting this to work, right? I'm not expecting this to do anything different, really. But you never know. Right, so taking off's fine. This would be amazing if this worked. Kinda. There it is. There it is, but it's blank for some reason. That's to do with this object. So it took it off again. So that's actually kind of working. Duh. Right now it doesn't. We switched the breakpoint off. Would you believe it? Right, okay, so we are actually back to the point that this actually works. So we need the materials to work for the rocket. Right, now this is going to give us some kind of an error here. And I don't actually know what this error means, right? You can see we've got a rocket there, which is perfect, right? But it does this SMS5 thing, and I don't really understand that. If anybody's got any idea, because if I now save that, right, it actually did save. Is this just been like this today? Is it just going to be pernickety about this? Let's have a look. So in theory, this time our rocket should take off like that, which is good. But when it comes into land, it's going to switch on our render target. There it is. Beautiful. Right, let's see if it switches it back off again. Yeah, but it switched it off way too soon. Way too soon. So our timeline needs to change somehow. This is like way too slow, or sorry, way too fast. Right, and these are happening way too fast. So we want that, and we want that at 0.9. So let's have a look at this. We can save that. We can save that. Okay. We can check our rocket. Now, as I said, the first time it starts going, it's going to be a problem. It's not going to do anything, but we've got some nice graphics, so that's fine. We'll live with that. And there we have our rocket coming back in. Now when it takes off, we should see it taking off. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Our problem is, right? Our problem is, this should not be 1 second. This should be the total time it takes. So this should be like 5 seconds. Or let's even say 10. Right? And then here we're going to adjust this slightly. And then this should be 10. And depending on how we do this, right, okay. Right, this is going to be 10, right? So we're going to have to reset this. So time is going to be, let's say, 8. And then we're going to add another float point here. Right, tell you what, delete that. And we'll add another one in. So this is basically going to be length. Time is 10 and value is 1. Right? And then we're going to add another key float. We're going to drop that down. So after about 8 seconds taken off, it's going to speed off. Okay? And that should work better for us now. Okay, so that's a bit slow. It doesn't look too bad though. It doesn't look too bad. Now we can change our that's basically right. So this is switching off after X amount of time, which is way too soon. Right, so what we could actually do is make this 5 seconds a piece. So this one switches off after 5 seconds, this one switches on after 5 seconds. So the thing isn't basically going to be jumping up and down. Right, we might need to do a little bit of mucking around in that, but it is working. I and we do want a certain amount of time, because we don't want this just flashing up and then going away instantly. We want it to, the point of it is that if the rocket isn't on the screen, that you're being made aware that the rocket is actually incoming, so that you know that you can then go and trade. Right, so we'll have a look at this one. Yeah, that's just switching off straight away. If we stop that, it's because we put I was a programmer for 25 years, but recently I've been doing this kind of full time at the moment. If you check my description, there's a link to a previous game I made. So this is what I'm doing at the moment. This didn't save at 5 seconds, it's weird. Right, so both these now happen at 5 seconds. There's no extra things stopping it doing anything, so we save that. Yeah, so I've been, my location and stuff, it's actually quite difficult for me to actually get a job. So I've been trying to make this a full-time job. As I said, if you check the description, there's a link to my game on Steam. I've already done a game, Tower Defense, but this is really the type of game that I wanted to make in the end. The Tower Defense thing was mainly a learning experience in Unreal Engine. Before that, you'll see in my other videos, if you check my YouTube channel, I've actually done Unity stuff as well. So you can see now that my rocket is showing there. Once it hits 0, it should basically right, I think we're going to have to delete one of these so that we're not confusing what's happening and when. Right? So, but in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll bang these up to 7.5 seconds each. Right? Now, the one thing we need to do is when the rocket lands, we need to put a we shall save that, then event graph, right? So we know that the rocket lands if it is not launching, okay? So basically what we can say is we can do a custom event. So let's do a custom event. We'll delete that for now, just to tidy it up. Let's tidy it up as we go here. We'll tidy up our launch. We'll tidy this up shortly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say custom event. We're going to add that, then we're going to clear widget. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there is. I've just not really found one yet. I'm not very good at making tools, or not very good in Blender. These things are all very specialized. I can get by in Blender, but not very well. So what we're going to do is we are going to is launching false. We want to clear this after X amount of time, so we can copy that, then we can paste it down here. Okay, and then on finished we can set timer by function, right? And this is going to be clear widget, so we go back in here and we say clear widget, and we set it for 5 seconds and it's not going to loop, and we basically say finished. So this is fundamentally going to work. Yeah, well, I don't know if you call it colonizing. You can't really say it's colonizing because there's nobody there except aliens, so maybe, but the aliens aren't very nice. Or the aliens aren't going to be very nice. So the idea here is it's a mix of Factorio, Satisfactory, Surviving Mars, and a bit of, what's it called? It's the one where it's all random, it's all procedurally generated, and it's 2D, and the little guys land on a planet, and if I bring up Steam, I'll remember what the hell it's called, but I can't remember what it's called. So how much have you seen? Have you seen the conveyor belts working and the warehouse working and stuff? Were you watching to that point, shall we say? Right, so that should fire after 5 seconds once it's finished, which is cool. So we can press play here. Now this is going to work either way, because it's going to work for either launching or unlaunching. Right, so it's just going to clear that widget off the screen if it's there. If you're launching, it'll already be cleared, but if you're not launching, it won't. So I'm liking that rocket taking off, by the way. That was just me put that together in 5 minutes and threw on a couple of Niagara systems that I had already made for something else. I need a little bit more motion on this. And there it disappeared, so that's good, right? Now the other thing is we can do a branch off of is launching or is landing. Now we probably actually want to put it in here, or even when we start the launch, we basically switch off trading, right? But in the meantime, what we're going to do is the normal thing we always do. We're going to get our controller variable. So we're going to say FE controller, and then when basically we begin play, we set it, right? And get player controller, and then we do have to cast it once. Casting it to the controller. Move this across. Plug this into here. Plug that in there. Plug that in there. Give ourselves some space. Drag these up. And that goes in there. And that's our controller set up. So now what we can do is, if we either launch, basically what we're saying here is if we launch, if we launch and it's finished, or actually if we launch, so we would really say in here, we get a controller, and basically trading, we're going to set trading available false, right? And if it finishes and the is launch equals to false, we do that. And then we plug that in there. We'll tidy this up just shortly, or probably I'll tidy it up off stream. That's what I normally do. I'll tidy things up off stream, but we're going to duplicate that and then basically do that and say trading is available. Okay, so we can pull this down a bit. So that in fact should work, and if we go into our FE controller, basically our 5 button, this is the one to bring up our rocket, which if we want to do manually, now these are going to be taken out obviously, right? But what we're basically going to see here is we're going to say trading available. We are going to try and spell it right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to branch on that. So basically we aren't going to be able to do this when we start the game, but when the next time the rocket lands, it should set it to available. So let's try that. So when I press 5, nothing should happen. That's correct. Right? So when a rocket takes off and then lands again, our one thing that don't work in functions. I don't think I've ever used them in a function. In fact, this is the most extensive use I've ever used the flip-flops. I don't normally use them. It was just for like a quick way of doing it, you know? So we should be able to press 5 now that this has landed, and there we go. Right, now it's taken off, can't press the button. It won't let me see it. So that is working actually pretty much as intended. Where is it? You're from, Mac? Mr. Hardy? Mac Hardy? So that is kind of perfect. It needs a tweak because obviously when the rocket's first taken off, it's not showing anything. But fundamentally, the logic is working. Yes, the point of the rocket is, I haven't quite decided, but you can trade. You're from Texas, you're not very far away from me. In fact, you might be very, very close to me, depending on where Texas you are. Yeah, the rocket is a resupply rocket. Okay, so let me show you a couple of the things that's happening here, okay? So basically, right, you can build like in Factorial, okay? So you can make stuff, make other stuff, and that all works. But what I'm going to show you is that you can also put stuff in the warehouse, which is one of these, right? Now these are all just placeholder graphics, so don't worry about how they look, right? But the point being that the warehouse stuff, right, Houston, so you're about 600 miles away. Right, so there's our rocket, and because of the speed of it and stuff, we don't really get an idea of its speed into the stars type thing. We can work on that, but anyway, back to the point. So this is where this all comes in, okay? But to see it working, we need basically a miner, okay? So we've got our miner, and we're going to connect it, okay? Now there's our rocket coming into land again, okay? So we're going to connect it up to one of our warehouses, okay? So now it's connected, we get stuff. Okay, now our warehouse won't have any stuff at the moment until it hits, and there you go, it should have stuff. Now if I hit 5, you'll notice that we are actually getting copper ore in our warehouse, and this is where we're going to be able to trade, right? But since our rocket has taken off, we can't actually do anything. The fundamentals of the logic of it is working, okay? The point is that you can only resupply when the rocket is landed. So you'll notice in a second or two, this will be able to go on and off, right? There you go. So this tells us how much product is in our warehouse. Then as we build up this widget is going to basically tell us how much is in the rocket or how much it costs. Right? Now, the other thing is that the rocket will bring in workers, and workers you can't make. Now, the thing about that is that each of the different buildings that you build will require a certain number of workers, okay? So, for example, if I build a building, right? This is a fabricator, okay? Now, this fabricator requires X number of workers, and its processing time is regulated by the level of the fabricator plus the worker speed. Okay, so if I click on this, it shows you the number of workers that are available, right? Which gives them an idea here actually, because if I select widgets, it's going to make a widget. I actually require it to tell us how long the widget is going to take and stuff here, so thanks for that. I need to add that to that widget. But you'll see here that a new thing requires iron sheet, copper sheet, but we haven't got a time that this takes, the standard processing time. So I need to basically add that to that widget. So one of the points is that you will need to trade with the rocket or the resupply rocket to bring you workers, right? And not only will you need workers for the factories, the workers will need buildings as well. So they're going to need housing, right? They're going to need like some sort of amenities like a casino, like restaurants or something. And if they don't have enough, then they'll leave the planet, which is going to obviously affect your your output time for processing stuff, right? So you'll notice that this actual warehouse is working fine, and once our rocket comes into land again, you'll see that the warehouse is storing a heck of a lot of stuff. But this is a limited supply, right? Now this should go down, but I don't think that widget is on a timer or anything. But anyway, you'll notice that we're now at 248, 252. This widget is on a timer of 2 seconds, so that's why you see it jumping up 2, right? If I was to put that on a timer of 1, it would basically go 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, right? Now you can see that our rocket's taken off again. Okay. And now I can't get rid of this again. But that's okay. So think about another way, right? What I can do here is if I look around and I can find a mineral that's, if I can find a mine, this is doing copper, right? Now, in theory, what I could do is I could split this, and then I could make copper wire, and then I could I could make copper sheet. Now, I don't know if I don't know what's going to happen if I try to remove this. Nothing. Right, so that's obviously not got the code in it to remove it. Well, I'm not sure about the alien thing, right? Because in a lot of these games, the aliens are just a pain in the neck after a certain amount of time, right? And they're not really the focus of the game. If it was to happen like that, what I'd want is something where it means something. It's not just like you know, the aliens are constantly at you. Right, so I'm not 100% sure about the aliens yet, but we're working on it. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to work on some of the little tweaks this needs. Just to get it working a bit better so it doesn't look quite so... well, so that you see the rocket moving in the screen here. And also I'm going to get it to remove a miner so that you can... or even the conveyor belt, right? I might do something that you can remove the conveyor belt and then rebuild it. See, this is good. This is exactly what I wanted, but I've not got the movement so that you can't see it coming into land, which is not the part I wanted. But, yeah. But I hope you've enjoyed it, Mac. If you're around tomorrow, I'll be streaming around about the same time. Hoping it's 2, but it sometimes can be half an hour either way. But I'll be glad to have you. And on that, if you want to check out the Patreon, I normally put all the streams up there and some other pictures you'll see and stuff. That's for free basically. But you can support there, and you can support by checking out my game on Steam. Stick it on a wish list, doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me. So I'll end the stream there, and thanks for coming over. Bye for now.